The African National Congress has hit out at the Western Cape government's powers bill, describing it as unconstitutional and a backward step for the country's democracy. In a statement, the ANC accuses the province's government of using the bill to bring back apartheid discriminatory laws. Now, the bill is aimed at transferring certain national functions to the provincial government. The Western Cape government is saying this will help address the failures of government. Let's get more detail now as to why it is that the ANC is not impressed by this proposed bill. And we're going to speak to now the ANC's Western Cape spokesperson, Muhammad Khalid Said. Mr. Said, thank you very much for your time. Let's focus the attention on the bill, if we can. What is it about it that you say harks back to the days of apartheid?
Thank you very much, and my greetings to the viewers. So this particular bill, number one, it is unconstitutional. It undermines Section 5 of the Constitution, which clearly outlines the role and responsibility of provinces. It creates It's a attempt to usurp national government powers and responsibilities. It further plays into the narrative, and here's where the apartheid issue comes in. It feeds into a narrative of Western Cape exceptionalism, of the Western Cape being this province that is separate from the rest of the country. And it gives the ability, and this is what's very dangerous, because if you've seen how things are happening now in the city of Cape Town, and I'm wearing the Palestinian scarf, and I did so deliberately, where people's paintings of the Palestinian flags, for example, are being removed. It gives that opening for the Western Cape to implement its own laws willy-nilly, which have already been favoring a minority in this country. And that's the problem. Even if you look at the impetus for the DA to have pushed this, we first found the Freedom Front Plus pushing the Western Cape People's Bill, Cape Exit pushing Cape Independence. So this comes within that context. The DA wants to speak to its right-wing base, and they're trying to appease that base to show that, look, here as the Western Cape, we are going to have our own laws. It's a move towards federalism, eventually towards Cape independence. So that is why we are saying it's taking us back to that apartheid space, where you had a homelands policy, where spaces in the country were reserved for certain individuals, where various parts of our country were cut off and were divided from each other. We were not a unitary state. It's taking South Africa away. It's an attempt to take us away from being a unitary South Africa. We're supposed to cooperate as different spheres of government and provinces, and not develop separate like this bill wants to purport.
Mr. Said, perhaps, is it possible that you are looking at this from a negative aspect or point of view? Why am I saying this? Is it possible that the Western Cape government is proposing the bills as you've mentioned them, because it's not just this powers bill, there are other bills that it has put forward? Is it possible that this is all in an effort to ensure a well-functioning Western Cape government? And when you say that these bills seek to usurp the powers of national government, you know as well as I do that you have the ability to go to court, and those are the most trusted adjudicators in the country who will tell us whether indeed what the Western Cape is trying to do is drive us towards some federalism in South Africa. Isn't that an option?
Thank you very much. Firstly, let me say that those bills that I mentioned are not bills that are being put forward by the Western Cape government. Remember, government doesn't put the bill. These are bills being put forward by members.
Indeed.
The DA, only this particular one. The other ones are the Freedom Front and them, who are a bit more on the right. So that's just, let me clarify that. I don't think we are being negative, because the Constitution of the Republic, this does not speak to provincial governments having these particular powers. There's a reason as to why our constitution is globally acclaimed. In its wisdom, the drafters have understood what roles provincial government can play and how national must support. I give you an example. Health and education are provincial delivery competencies. We are sitting here today. Your reporters yesterday spoke about the unplaced learner crisis in the Western Cape. They are failing to deal with unplaced learners. They are failing to deal in the health space with overcrowding at our hospitals. They're closing down hospitals.
Mr. Said.
Those are provincial competencies. Deal with the provincial competencies. On the issue of court, let me say, we are not pursuing court at this moment in time because we respect the democratic space. We must fight this matter politically. And I can tell you, the majority of opposition political parties in the Western Cape, including the EFF, are opposed to this particular bill. Civil society is opposing this bill. So ours is first, let's pursue the democratic process. But what we have done in the legislature, our leader of the opposition, Cameron Dugmore, has just written a letter to the Speaker of the legislature, questioning even the process as to how this bill came about. I tell you, 3 legal advisors belonging to the legislature, employed by the Western Cape DA administration in the legislature, have all indicated that the bill is unconstitutional. It's a waste of money because they know even if the bill does get passed in the province, it's not going to be implemented because they need the national buy-in. Not unless the DA are going to win the elections with their Moonpack coalition later this year.
Mr. Said, I realize that this conversation is going to quickly descend into the political realm, but I suppose it was going to go there anyway. But
most certainly, because it's a political ploy.
Indeed.
A political stunt.
Well, I'm not going to agree that it's a political ploy, but, you know, this is the Western Cape, or should we say politicians in the Western Cape trying to find options, trying to find solutions, perhaps, is what I want to say. We're going to lose people if we're going to go all over the place. Do you and I agree that we have an electricity crisis in the country? Do you agree on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
But that does not mean that a provincial powers bill is going to resolve that.
Just pause there for a moment. So if you agree that we have an energy crisis in the country, do we also have a railway problem in the country? Railway lines, including just the logistics sector. Do you agree that we have a dysfunctionality in that sector as well? Is that a fact?
That is a fact, and we're not running away from that.
So let me pose my question then. If indeed we agree that these two are problematic for the country, what is wrong with a particular province wanting to find solutions to that? And why is it that the governing party will think that this is all in an effort to usurp the powers of national government? Competence is perhaps what we should be talking about here.
Firstly, let me say it's not only the governing party who believes that this is an attempt to usurp powers of national government. The majority of opposition parties in the Western Cape, who most of the time disagree with us, are saying the same thing. But number two, there are these challenges. But devolving powers is not necessarily going to resolve this. In fact, it's going to worsen this because in the end of the day, budget comes from national. There are national policies. There needs to be, our approach is to say, let's have a cooperative governance approach, which the Constitution of the Republic already makes a provision for.
Can I quickly interject? Can I quickly interject? I love this because you and I are having a conversation. Yes. So, devolving powers, you're saying that you find a problem with that. Is it your agreement as a resident of Cape Town? I'm talking to you now as a resident of Cape Town. Do you agree that when the country is hit by load shedding, Cape Town perhaps experiences a lesser stage of load shedding because of the capacity of that city in providing power, because it has some power station that it relies on, and if it is going to run that power station efficiently, isn't that to the benefit of the residents in Cape Town? Am I wrong?
Certainly, but that does not require devolution of powers to do that. You can do that already. And you are doing that already with cooperation of ESCOM, with cooperation of national government. You're not creating an antagonistic atmosphere where also more resources are going to go into creating more departments. Those resources that would be used to actually do what you are doing, you can improve what you are doing, instead of using them to go and create different layers, more departments, and that type of thing. So we are not necessarily saying that provinces must not ensure that that residents are being served in the manner in which you say. We are not saying that. But by the way, also, let me also say, whilst we have been able to some extent deal with the energy crisis, to that extent in terms of capacity, poor people are also suffering because of the high tariffs, higher tariffs than the NERSA tariff rate even. So let me just put at that also, so that we don't. But I want to say that it does not necessarily require these type of unconstitutional legislative reforms. It can all still be achieved within the framework of the current of the current legal mechanisms. Because the danger of this is you are going to be antagonizing. You're actually going to be defeating the purpose which you state you want to actually achieve. That's our concern. It's not to say that.
So let's conclude the conversation then on this point, and it is a question from me to you. The operative word that you are using now, and I'm latching onto it deliberately, the antagonistic relationship that may result from devolving powers. Why is it that the ANC sees it that way, that this is going to become antagonistic? Do you fear being shown up as a party in government, and that has been in government for the past, for 30 years now, that some government in the Western Cape will probably do things better than you have done in the past 30 years? Is that where this is predicated upon?
No, let me firstly say no, because we've just got a few months left before the elections, and we are confident that the DA are not going to be governing the Western Cape after the elections. Whether we govern or whether there's a conglomerate of various partners, the DA are not going to come in. So for us, it's not about playing petty party politics. The media have been exposing where the ANC has made mistakes in governing. So if we were worried about being shown up, we would have suppressed everything and not spoken clearly, even in our renewal and rebuilding program of the ANC. We speak about failures that have taken place. We are the first to admit. So that is not the objective. When we speak about the antagonisms, yes, antagonistic relationship between the spheres of government, but also beyond that, we want to build a Western Cape, and I think that was the vision in 2004 when we governed, and we spoke about a Western Cape, a home for all. Ikaya Ekapa, as it was called. We want to build a Western Cape that is inclusive of all its citizens. Everybody feels welcome. The discourse of this bill, the unconstitutionality thereof, has the ability, as it has been doing already, go onto the ground in the province and you'll see the response of the public, of dividing our people across racial lines, across the lines of even party political affiliations, their perspectives. So that's for us the bigger problem as well. So yes, antagonism at the governance level, but also antagonism at the societal level, because there are those who will feel and are already feeling that no. They want to make the Western Cape this balkanized state, a separate state from the rest of South Africa, and we who may not necessarily be born here, or we who do not fit in to a narrative that the governing Democratic Alliance and their right-wing partners like the Freedom Front are pushing here, are not welcome in the Western Cape. So we need to be very careful of those. We want to continue with social cohesion in this province as well.
All right. Muhammad Khalid Said, thank you very much for your time.